Welcome, everyone, to our women's ministry meetup today. We're going to be talking with our guest, women's ministry leader, Kate Geiger. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, we are so excited to have you. Kate leads the women's ministry program for Cornerstone Lutheran Church in Carmel, Indiana, which is a multi-site church.
Yes.
And you are on staff there, correct?
Yep. I work
Great.
part-time.
Part-time, okay. And so tell us what part-time means in terms of like hours or amount of time for you.
Okay. So technically I work about 15 to 18 hours a week. For me, my job is discipleship coordinator and women's ministry. So I do both of those things. I work with our new members or our new disciples coming in. That's part of what I do. And then then I'm in charge of all of our Bible studies and all of our women's events. And I will be honest, it's a seasonal thing for me. So this job kind of in June, I was not here one day. I didn't turn in a timesheet. But in December, I'm here every day. And it's December, I'm here more than I should be and late into the night. And so it's kind of seasonal. It's kind of depending on what's going on, what events are here and what we're doing. So 15 to 18 hours a week or as needed, if that helps.
Right. So it sounds like every other job at the church, right? As needed.
Full-time or part-time, for sure.
Yes. Well, I wanted to ask because a lot of the women's ministry leaders across the country are, some are volunteers, some are full-time, some are part-time. And I think especially with part-time, that can just mean so many things. And I just kind of wanted to set the stage for what that means in your context.
And I have one pretty good rule that we set my husband is the senior pastor here. And so one pretty good rule that we set many years ago is if you are part-time and you do get paid, one thing to think about is if you're deliberating or on the fence, is one thing to think about is would I be here if it weren't part of my pay? So for example, in my Tuesday night Bible study, I do not dock the hours for that because I would teach that anyway. Like I was teaching it before they hired me, and I would teach it if they were not hiring me anymore. But there's sometimes where if I'm here and I definitely wouldn't be here if it weren't a part of my job, I say, yeah, I'm going to put that in my hours. And so and it helps me because I'm naturally want to serve the church with or without being paid. And so it kind of helps me to kind of force me to put the hours in, but then to also for me to think about it as I'm still serving the church and I'm still giving my time, talents, and treasures, if that helps.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that's a really good way to think about whether or not you want to say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Even for a volunteer position.
Right, exactly. I mean, across all of them, there's a lot of things that need to get done, but which do you feel called to say yes to, and which do you leave for others? Yeah, that's nice. Thank you for that. So give us a little background. How long have you served in the role that you're currently in, the discipleship and women's ministry role?
So I started this role in 2020. I was hired in May of 2020. So a lot of what we did was Zoom. And I don't know if you have had contact. Jan Williams was the lady who did this job before me, and she did it for many years. She retired right before March of 2020.
Wow.
And so when I was hired on with another gal friend, and we split the job in half. So she was events and I was Bible studies. And we did everything together. She has since kind of moved on and doing some other things that she's choosing. But I'm still here. So it's been just about 4 years. And like I said, my husband's the pastor here. So we've been at this church for 10. And I've always loved women's ministry. I always wanted to be in women's ministry. I always wanted to have a role in it. But this is the first time it's ever been a paid position or a position with a title.
Nice.
So just about 4 years.
So 4 years, that's good. And kind of 4 eventful or
Correct.
event-filled years.
Right.
As you said, starting in 2020, it was all very distance.
Yes. And I would say, if you ask Holly, that's the girl who I was hired with, it actually paved the way for us to make a lot of changes. We had the benefit of things that we were not able to do because of COVID. And it let us do some things that we've always wanted to try. And so it actually, I can't honestly say that it was all a bad thing, because it let us make some changes and ask some questions of the women's ministry that we weren't asking before.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. I think that that's a really great reminder that even things that feel a bit like catastrophic even at first, if you just take a deep breath, there's usually something really positive that it will allow you to do that you would have not had permission to do before. So, and that's a great example of one of them.
or things that are expected of for your part to do and that you can't do. So you can kind of, oh, well, we don't do that anymore. Oops.
Right.
You know,
that didn't make it back.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're thinking about doing it again.
Well, and for some of those things you may decide to do it again, but and you may not, but it gives you the chance to really examine it without any expectations, which is a gift.
And you can kind of tweak the things that weren't working or the things that needed to be advanced a little bit. So
great. So you said you started out with another person on staff that you worked with, and now she has since moved on to a different role. So it's really kind of all yours. Is there anybody else that supports you on staff, or is it really just?
Oh yeah. So she's actually in the room with me. Her name's Abby. She does all of our MOPS coordinating. I said when Holly left, she said, I can find you someone to do MOPS. And I said, please. And so Abby, her heart is in our MOPS, or MomCo is what it is now. Her heart is really in it and has been since her kids were in preschool. So she's a perfect fit for that. But she does all of the registrations, all of everything that is needed for that. So I just work as an advisory role in that. And I say, yes, that's a great idea. Go and do that and have fun. So, yeah. And then I always build a team around everything that we do. Depending on what it is, sometimes it's smaller and sometimes it's ladies from our staff that already exist. So I can talk to them on a Wednesday when they're in the office, or other times, or if it's a bigger event, I'll build a team from within the congregations, the sites. And so we can go from there. So it's really never just me doing anything.
That's great. Yeah, I think that that's really, really wise, because you can so easily overextend yourself when it really is mainly just you.
I guarantee that I couldn't do it if it were just me. I would not be very good at it.
I don't know that anybody would be, in truth. And you mentioned across the sites that your congregation is a multi-site church. You have, is it 4 different locations? Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot of folks.
Yes.
I mean, because the main campus, I've been there and it's quite large. And then 3 additional.
The Carmel site. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, well done.
Thanks. Yeah, and those are growth. So the 2 sites, the Indy site and the Eagle Creek site, those are the 2 newest sites. So the other is the Carmel site and the Fisher site, and they're the 2 biggest sites. But Carmel, or Indy and Eagle Creek are kind of works in progress.
Mhm.
Eagle Creek, that one, we're in our second year of kind of accumulating that site as a CLC site. So things in that one is an already existing kind of church. We just kind of
Mhm.
took it over. We didn't take it over, but they asked us to come and help with some things and put our brand on it. And so a lot of stuff already exists there. We're just there for support in it. We do need to work on getting some women's Bible studies out there, but and then the same with the Indie site. It's all, and all of the sites are very different and they all have very different people. So
Mhm.
it's definitely a learning curve for us, for me.
Yeah, I'm sure for everyone, but
Yeah,
a unique challenge for you in serving women in so many different situations, because Indy would be certainly urban,
right.
um,
Yeah,
and Carmel is definitely suburban.
yes.
Um,
And so is
so
Fishers, and so is Eagle Creek. Yeah,
yeah, so I
they're
mean, there's
all
just different things going on there.
right, for sure.
Um, So tell us right now, and maybe just, the two sites that are, kind of well established, Fisher and Carmel. What does the women's ministry program entail? What's happening under that umbrella?
Okay. So women's Bible studies, women's events, and then general care for women, I guess I would say. It
Mhm.
actually does include, that umbrella does include our LWML. That's a conversation outside of this, I think. But we are technically over them, but it
Okay.
doesn't actually work that way because they pre-existed me and Jan actually. And so but yeah, it does include them. Anything really that the women do in a group is that umbrella. I'm not
Okay.
in charge of it all. I know about it all, but I certainly don't have my fingers in all of it.
Okay.
And then
Um,
and then the MomCo program
yes.
also is a part of women's ministry.
Okay. Great. So it's pretty far reaching.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. It has a broad stroke for sure.
Uh-huh. And then you mentioned that you actually teach in the weekly Bible study.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
teach 2 studies a week, Thursday mornings and Tuesday evenings.
Okay. So in your Bible study programs, do you have, are those the 2 days the Bible studies go on, or do you have
No,
them?
we have Bible studies Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 2 on Tuesday, 1 in the morning in Carmel and 1 in the evening in Fishers. 3 on Wednesday, 1 in the morning in Carmel, 1 in the morning in Fishers, and 1 in the afternoon in Carmel, and then 2 on Thursday, 1 in the morning on Thursday, and 1 in the evening on Thursday.
Got it.
So, and then that's how but I don't lead them all. I only do 2. So we bring in other ladies who are solid teachers. And
Mhm.
did that answer your question?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So you kind of cast a wider net so that, whatever the situation is, a woman who wants to be involved can find a group at a time
Right.
that she could be
Yes.
involved.
The time that works for you, for sure. Yes.
Yeah,
Morning
no,
and
that's great.
evening
That's really
and
smart.
afternoon. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, our
It,
my
I
church
should
does
say,
that as well.
yeah, the Indie site just started one the middle of last season. And they meet on Sunday afternoons and they meet in people's homes. So that is another women's Bible study.
Oh, that's nice. So they meet in homes. Are the others at Fisher and Carmel, are they all at the
They-
church or are they a
Yeah, they
combination
meet on site. Yeah.
on site? Okay. Okay. Um, and then events. You said that there's a schedule of events. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We do solidly 3 events a year, one in October, one in December, and then one in May. In all of my scattered brain thinking, I would love to do another one in around February, but we haven't really been able to slide that in very easily. This is, and these are outside of the MomCo events or LGBT events. Those, they do other things too that are offshoot, but specifically for women's ministry, October, December, and then another one between April and May. The October event is very easy, and I recommend it to anyone who is thinking about it. Our area, there's a winery in Carmel that they close on Mondays, but they open it for private events. And basically it's the price of the wine that you purchase. It's very inexpensive. It's outside, it's beautiful. It can fit as many or as little women as you want to. All we do is send an invite. We send an email saying the date and time. And it is our most highly attended event. The truth is we don't do any Jesusing really at it. There's no Bible study time. There's no time for, like, I don't talk at all during it, just to people. We wear our name tags. We know they know who we are, but we really hope our ladies bring friends. And then if we have our act together, we have them hand out postcards for the December event, which is Advent by Candlelight. So it's a really simple event. It's a great kickoff. It's a great way to get ladies together that don't know each other or haven't seen each other. It's a great way to cross sites, because really all it is, and we do a craft in it. 2 years ago, we painted wine glasses, and last year we made rings to put on your wine glasses. So it really is a really simple event. It's easy to do and inexpensive. So if you have something like that in your area, I recommend that one. And then in December, we do Advent by Candlelight, which is a 30-year-old tradition, probably 40 at this point in this congregation. I inherited it. Like I said, we create a team of about, and I create a team at each site. So we do it at 3 of the 4 sites. So we, in Carmel, in Fishers, and in the Eagle Creek site. We just started that one. This will be our 3rd year. And I just create a team of women that are site specific. And they do registration for me, decoration for me, and then we just all have conversations based on what's going on. We do have one big meeting with everybody from all sites so that they can all see each other. But after that, we kind of break off and do our own thing and then come together before it begins. And for that, I pull speakers from the congregation. Ladies, I've been trying since I took it over, I've been trying to incorporate our women on staff to be this one of the speakers that will just rotate with me throughout all the sites. And then we pull one from the personal site. And then our May event, or the April-May event, is we've done that one differently a couple of times. The first year that we could gather, we'd usually do something crafty. The first year we did flower arranging outside, which was really great because we wanted to make sure that we were outside for part of the time, like moving in and out and not stagnant in the stagnant air. And then we'll pick a theme verse, and then we'll do some talking, or we'll either do a panel for that event. We'll gather a bunch of women from the congregation that we think have something to say in the theme area that we've chosen. And that's basically the premise of that. We've done it differently. One year we did charcuterie, which we put meats and cheeses in a jar and they ate it. It was fun. And that year we talked about gifts, the way that different women serve in our church. So I pulled out some of our ladies that sing, some of our ladies that quilt, some of our ladies that do various other things, and we made a panel of them. And then we asked pointed questions about how they think they serve. This year we did encouragers. We went a little crazy with the bee theme. And we had a bunch of ladies, and this year was really great because we had a bunch of ladies who aren't natural people who talk in front of others, but they are natural encouragers, and they all got real brave and they stood on stage and they answered questions, and they did such a beautiful job just being themselves and talking about what they do. and how they can be, and encouraging people to be encouragers. So that's what the May event is. It is a little more, it's more work than the October event,
Sure.
because it's in-house. And so it does involve talking in December and May, we always have a band and we do worship music in between things. And I have one gal who does most of that with me and for me, and she's great. She creates a band and she picks the music. I give her the theme and she gives me a list. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Very nice.
it's a big animal. We're a big machine, so it's hard. Take what this big machine does and make it into something smaller is sometimes hard to see, but it's possible.
Yeah, well, and what I was thinking is the brilliance of the October gathering, where you're kind of just doing your kickoff and you're saying, "Come on, come all." You are fortunate enough to have I'm sure most wineries have a gorgeous setting,
Right.
and you're lucky enough to be close to that. I would say some cities, like in St. Louis, there are several parks that would be equally beautiful, and have lots of room for folks too, so that you could flex on the fly. And I think that's kind of the beauty of that. You don't have to stress about, oh no, now we're at 50 and we don't have room for anymore, and a new car just pulled in.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think at our church, when we were just beginning to kind of restart women's ministry in the fall, they did something in the parking lot. And we happen to have a fairly decent sized parking lot, but they just did all these fire pits. And it was really simple, kind of the exact same thing that you're describing. You could go from fire pit to fire pit, meet new people. I think they had a prayer at the end, but it was really meant to just say, hey,
Yeah,
if
we're here.
you're in women's ministry, come and find out more.
That's actually where the idea for that's where that originated. Because we used a tent for our Oktoberfest here. And I was like, can we just use the tent and serve wine in our parking lot? And there's all kinds of rules about who can serve wine and when you can serve wine. And then Abby, who's the moms, she's found this place and suggested it. And we've used it. This will be our third year doing it. But that's where that originated, because we wanted to be in our parking lot and just something simple, because it seems like you just get the ball rolling in August, because we all go back to school in August, and the month of August is a little hairy. And so by the time you settle down in September, it's hard. So ideally we would put that in September, but it still doesn't work with the weekends of September. It's just hairy and
Excellent. Well, and I think it's also, I mean, everybody's in a different situation, but I think, just being flexible and saying, well, ideally it might be September, but for us, our ideal is October. For somebody else, it might be September. And for somebody else, it might even be August. I mean, if you have a lot of year-round school.
And you're right, it can be in your parking lot, it can be at a park, it can be in someone's backyard. If you have somebody with a larger house, it's really anything. Really, the base is just being simple and inviting anyone to come with no intimidation, no expectations, no anything. They just come and they are with each other.
Yeah, I think those are some of probably the most significant personal sharing, because there is really no program. You don't have to stop.
Yeah. It has a great return, that event. So
great. So in your Bible study program, let's just return to that for a quick few minutes. You have several different studies going on, and you describe those throughout the week. Does everybody do the same study, or do you have a series of different things?
So the leaders in the study pick what they want to do.
Okay.
So for example, my Tuesday study has been, since it started, we study the sermon series. So we take the text from the sermon series and I flipped it on them last year because they talk more if they've already heard the sermon. So we study the text after the Sunday sermon. We used to come into the sermon so that but just so that they're in the same word, processing the same stuff all week long. And so when you hear the sermon, not necessarily for this, but if you have questions but just kind of digging further into that scripture, that's what we do. There's not another study that does that. On Thursday mornings, we will go through the entire book of Isaiah this year. And they love inductive study. And so that's what we do. But some of them are topical, some of them are and some of them are video series, some of them aren't video series. Really, all they have to do is kind of run it by me. But a lot of my ladies have been teaching for a really long time. So they're vetted. They're not picking anything that's too far off the curriculum. And they're also ones that can go, that's not what we teach as a church. And so they'll either skip that lesson, they'll let me know, be like, this is what's happening in this lesson, and we're not going to do that. So they're all pretty vetted in that. And they're also quick enough on the fly to be able to answer the question that's a little, so, and they, the ones that when occasionally they'll pull a pastor in. So they'll on our Wednesday study at the end of the year, at the end of the season in May, they had accumulated all these questions from their study in Genesis, I think it was. And so at the end of it, they did an Ask the Pastor Day. So like, that's a really cool thing to do. So they all do something a little different. Most of them are Bible study based, are Bible book based, not a lot of topical studies around here. But so
that's great. I love that. Ask the Pastor Day.
Yeah.
Because it's also a really wonderful way to engage with the pastor it's still a church setting, but it's much more casual.
Correct. Yeah. And it's outside of the sermon or even Sunday morning Bible study where they kind of, they're so far away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love that idea. The event schedule, you said that you always have a kickoff, you always do the December, and then in May, that's the one that flexes in terms of what the
right. Yeah.
The topic or the theme of it would be.
Yeah.
And then if you were going to do your dream of being able to put one in February timeframe, what would be different about it? So it sort of seems like a welcome back, a Christmas, a really beautiful Christmas celebration, kind of an end of the year. What would February be?
I have two answers. One is servant event based. So we would the church has left the building kind of idea, or an intensive Bible study day. Two very different things, but those are the two ideas that I would have. One of the things that we lost or removed from the schedule is a 2-day retreat. And that's kind of what that February one would or should replace, is something where we're together for a longer stint. Like the other thing about the events that we do right now, aside from Advent by Candlelight, because that's eternal, that lasts forever. But the May event and the October event are only 2 hours. So we start them at 6 and we're done with them at 8, and we're packed up and ready and out of the building by 9. We don't keep everybody here for a real long time. But I do have a lot of ladies that miss that retreat day. So that would be that February event, something that is a little longer, not necessarily a full day, but something that starts in the morning, does a little brunch, does a Bible study on 2 sides with multiple different teachers, and then ending by lunchtime. But that's what that event would be, or servant event based, where we would leave the building
and work within the community,
various places in the community.
Yep. Got it. Yeah, and that makes sense. And a lot of churches, a lot of the women's leaders that I've spoken with, they do a retreat, but
Yeah,
they don't necessarily do it every year,
right.
because obviously it's a lot of work to put it together. But so yes, what you're
Yeah.
saying
And
certainly makes sense.
to be honest, the retreat doesn't always connect with a younger crowd. It's a
Hmm.
hard, it's a hard day. And I used to say, because we get a lot of moms of all ages that say, I don't want to give up my Saturday. And I used to say, you can give up one Saturday. But the truth is that you're not giving up a Saturday, you're giving up watching your kid play soccer. You're giving up the only day of the week that your husband is home. You're giving, and so it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of that 20 to 38 something mom, where they want to be with their families and that's the day where they get to do it.
Hmm.
And when you add it up, there's not that many of them in the year and there's not that many of them in the lifespan of your child. And so that's the kind of the thing that we got. That's the thing that I think when you're planning a retreat and you're thinking about it and when you ask yourself, why can't I get the younger people? That's why. And so and that's where I haven't quite met the sweet spot in that is where I can say to all generations, hey, this is for you. And that's kind of what I'm looking for in that. And we haven't quite gotten there yet.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
really, really hard. And that's the number one thing that people, when I speak with them, or do any speaking, that the question that I get is, I can't get the younger women to show up.
Yeah.
They're at church and I know they know about it, but they just don't seem interested. And I think, time is precious.
Yeah. When we were in our lull when we first started in 2020, Holly and I developed a survey and we surveyed maybe 100 women, not a lot. It's
Mm.
less than 10% of our population, but it was enough to hear some things that were helpful. So we moved our events till Thursday nights. We moved them off of Fridays. We
Mhm.
put there on so the anything that we do and I actually recommend it to everybody on staff. I say put it on a Thursday because Thursday is not Friday. So it's not a
Right.
date night. But it is close. You know what I mean? Thursday is close to the weekend and
Yes.
we're gearing up for it. And so we can
Mhm.
give a couple of hours on Thursday night. And we have had a lot of success with Thursday nights. The wine event is always on a Monday night, but I think they come because it's wine. uh, but that Thursday, taking it off of the weekend, taking it off of the Saturday, we have a lot of people that go to the lake and do things on the weekend, especially up until October. And so
Mhm.
getting them on that Thursday day has been really good. That's one of those things that we learned from that survey is just asking the question, hey, what do you prefer? Do you prefer a Saturday? No, we don't. We prefer a Thursday. And we make it earlier. So we start them at 6 instead of 7 so that we have ladies who, if they don't want to drive at night, we've also offered rides. So just
Mhm.
various things to kind of work around the generational gap. But
Yeah, I think all of those are great tips and something that every church, no matter what your size, you can still do a survey, you can move around your calendar, and just consciously thinking about the needs of every single generation, will definitely make every single one of them feel truly invited
yeah,
and truly wanted. Yeah, and welcome.
yeah.
Yeah, so those are all really great tips. Thank you for that. One last thing I wanted to make sure we cover before we run out of time is leadership, and especially your leadership philosophy around Bible study leaders. You mentioned that you have women that are all, very seasoned. Um, I I got the privilege of hearing you speak about your program, and when you talked about how you handle it when people need to take a break or just want to retire from doing that, um, I I just remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, that's simple, but it's genius what she does. So could you describe that for our audience?
Sure. It's, uh, you say as simple as I would agree with you. I don't know about genius, but we pull from within. I think this is what you mean. So we pull the leader from within. So when the leader comes to me and says, Kate, can't teach this study. I'm going back to work. My kids are this, and the other thing, we're moving. I say, okay, who is the lady in the classroom that answers the questions the most astutely? Who is the lady that's the most helpful to you? Who is the woman who's always there? Who is that you would trust to? And I ask them because they know the people in the room. So
Mm-hmm.
I ask them to pull from within. And so I meet with the current leader and the future leader, and we talk it through. And I say, do you want to do this? Is this something that you, and so far that works. It's worked actually really nicely. We have some hiccups with with the younger Bible studies. It's harder to get ladies to be in it for a longer amount of time. I had a really
Yes.
great group meeting on Mondays in Fishers, and then their kids hit a stage where they start kindergarten next year, and the mamas are getting a little nervous, and
Mm-hmm.
so they want out of that commitment, and they didn't find anybody else. So it's not foolproof, but it does work most of the time, and I do think it is a great way to pull from those groups because they know them. And if sometimes they say, ooh, and I say, no, I don't, that's not a reliable source based on my experience with them in other places, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the time they're on it, they know it. So that's it. That is it. That's how we do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that um, letting people know that they can absolutely take a pause
Oh yeah.
or whatever as life changes. It's not a forever commitment, but yet, we want you to have as much love and care for this group, even if you're not the leader, by picking somebody who you believe will pick up where you left off and care for them well and be prepared and make this experience something that is both God honoring, but also really welcoming and inspiring and connecting. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we all want a good relationship.
Yeah.
And the church
Yeah. And you want the ladies
do
in
that.
that room that are in that Bible study to feel comfortable with their leader. You don't want someone who is in
Yes.
there that has never been in the room with them before, because a lot of time Bible study is as much about Bible study but it is also about community and building community. And in a Bible study that you've been with for 10 years, you share a lot of things that are personal and sacred, and you get out your silly questions and your honest questions, and you don't
Yeah,
want somebody walking in there who doesn't know you, and doesn't know your group. And so that's a part of it. That's a big part of it.
absolutely. Um, you said that no matter what you do, you always have a team that you pull together.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that each event, would qualify for that. Each event would have a team. Um, how different are the teams from year to year? Like, do you usually have like a fall kickoff team and an Advent by candlelight team, or does that rotate a lot?
I'd love to say that they're vastly different, because my goal is to pick different ladies every time, but I tend to lean pretty heavily on 4 or 5.
Hmm.
And those 4 or 5 really are influential in the October event and the May event. And we add, the other thing was for panels, when I do that's another way to incorporate to widen the team, is to put
Hmm.
women on the panel.
Hmm.
And that's another way. But in all of those, girls are on staff on one way or the other, and they're brilliant and they come up with really great ideas. And so it's really hard to go outside of that.
Mhm.
One of these days they're going to say, no, we don't want to help you with that anymore, Kate. And then I'm going to cry. But until then, I'm going to stick there. For Advent by Candlelight, on the other hand, we do create 3 pretty big teams. With that, it's usually I will use someone that I know at the site who I've used in the past, and I say, hey, who do you think would be interested in helping out with Advent by Candlelight this year? The other thing I do at all events, not necessarily Advent by Candlelight, but I'll say, if you're interested in helping with this type of thing, please let me know. And I do get emails that say, hey, I'd love to help with this next time, or hey, I'd love to be on this committee, or and so that's a big part of it, is just saying, opening up, this is not a silo work. I don't do this all on my own. There's a bunch of people that help me with this, and you can help too. Because a lot of times the ladies come to the event and the team is more fun than the actual event. You know, working on the team and being a part of it is the part where you kind of gel and you get the community. And so, and ladies see that, and so they want to be a part of it.
That's
So
great.
I'd love to say that I'm better at team. But it's really, I get stuck. I get in a rut with those 4 or 5 gals that are really super helpers, and they just have good ideas. So
Yep, and you can always count on them. And
yeah.
the more you
Yeah.
the more you gel, the more you want to. Yeah, I think everybody can certainly understand that. But there was something that you said that I don't want to just skip over, which is I will say, you could help on this team if you like to do this specific thing. And I think that that's what helps people decide if they want to step forward. So like, is it hospitality? Is it making something? Is it teaching? Is it like, what specifically am I saying yes to? Is it recruiting, advertising, cleanup, food? Everybody's got their niche that they feel
Yeah.
super comfortable in. And when they see that opportunity to match that, I think everybody's far more likely to step forward and say, yeah, I could do that, than just hey, we need volunteers.
Right, people to volunteer. The other thing is, if I love to, if I get a complaint from the complaint department, I will often say, why don't you help me fix that next year? You can be on my, and it's not even also a complaint. It's sometimes it's just did you know this happens? And I'll say, no, I didn't. And you can help me with that. So that is actually an example of that is for Advent by Candlelight. Our Carmel site, like I said, has been going with that for forever, for 30, 40 years. And it can get a little clicky. And that's a problem. And it's a hard problem to fix because it's been going for so long, and it's the same tables and the same ladies and the same things. And there are some other ladies who I didn't necessarily realize were very hurt for years of hurt about this situation. And I didn't know this. This is only my 4th year doing Advent by Candlelight. And so I got a really long email from a lady a well-intentioned woman who really helped me see that there was a problem. But my answer to her was, thank you for bringing this to my attention. And you need to do a table next year, and you need to invite all of those people and let them see that this is for everyone. Because the ladies that we would consider the cliquey ladies, they don't know that they're cliquey ladies. That's not what they're thinking. They're just thinking this is a beautiful way to start my Advent season. And they don't know that people are feeling left out. Would never be anybody's intent. And so you just kind of have to educate. And sometimes that's the way you do it, is you just say, hey, nobody knew that. We need your help to educate everyone with that. And so she did a table, and it was beautiful. And actually she did a table, and then she did another half a table inviting anybody who wanted to come that was like a single invite. So
nice. Very nice. And I think even for people who maybe didn't know whether or not they would be interested, just the fact that there's no barrier
your sound
makes
just
it. makes it, much more likely that they would come. Did
Hey,
our
Jane,
audio just drop?
you have no sound.
Well,
Telling me that my internet connection is unstable.
uh-oh. But let's
It's
just hang
back.
out for a sec. Oh, it's good.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's back now because I
Okay,
can hear
good.
you again. I didn't hear any of the questions that you just said. I think
Well,
probably.
actually, I was just reflecting and saying that I love the fact that not only did she solve it for the people that she knew, but she went further and solved it for even people she didn't know.
Yeah.
So,
She saw, yeah.
yep. And if there's no barrier, it's amazing how many people
Right.
might be interested.
Right. And I think I think in that they realize that it's not the idea in their head that they thought it was. You know what I mean? Like it's just a bunch of ladies that want to enjoy their admin season. So
Yep. Yep. We tell ourselves a lot of stories.
yes, we do. Women do. Yes, we do.
So one last question, because I know everybody who works with volunteers faces this, and so I'm just looking for any tips or strategies that you have. Everything is all lined up, everybody has a job, everything is clicking along, and then there's a death in the family or somebody gets sick, and that is always going to be a last minute oops. What's your favorite way to handle that?
This is the question that I'm a little afraid to answer
Okay.
because my answer is you should never have an event that is reliant so much on one person that it couldn't be handled by the rest of the group.
That's a great
That's my
philosophy.
answer. So if I get sick or if I go out, I'm pretty sure that anybody else on my team could they would be uncomfortable, but they could do it.
Mhm.
Step up and do the parts that I do. I don't think you should have so much weight on one person that event wouldn't go through smoothly without them. That's just my philosophy on that.
That's great advice.
Sorry.
That's great advice.
I wanted to say, oh, but it's really, that's it.
Well, I think that I think it just helps you reframe what it is you're trying to build with
Yeah.
the team that you put into place and the number of folks that you put on it. So maybe
Yeah.
you think you could get away with 4, but you go ahead and have 5.
Right. And
I mean, there's a lot of ways.
And I think it's one of those things is you never, I don't know how to say this without saying, you just never elevate any one person to a level that they are more important than the other one. I don't know how to say it other than, just saying
their contribution would be irreplaceable.
Yeah, that's and I suppose if there was a speaker, if we had hired a speaker and you lose the speaker at last minute, that's a different level. We have done speakers before in the past. We did one a couple of years ago, twice, 2 years in a row, and she was great. Now, if we would have lost that, that's another kind of what you do with that. I'm not sure I have an answer for that. That's depending on if it's the same day. I think you just say we're going to reschedule this event. If it's a week out, I would put together a panel and say, hey, we're going to take the same topic and we're going to ask questions based on the book that the speaker wrote, and everybody who's here is going to kind of participate in that together.
Yeah, I think those are great. Those are great options. And I think in the heat of the moment, you just sort of freeze. So
Yeah.
having something, just ideas that you can call on is the quickest way to get unfrozen.
Right.
When the speaker's not coming kind of moment happens.
The speaker's not coming kind of moment. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah. Yes, that is the height of unfortunate. So you obviously use a lot of volunteers. Do you do anything that either individually or as a group that's just meant to be in appreciation for their service?
I gift all my girls for Advent by candlelight. I usually get a small gift, and I have one of the couple of the girls on the team usually help me with it, so I give them a gift for helping. But yeah, and it's not usually anything major. It's a gift card, and like we did these lotions one year.
Mm.
And then I gift the speakers something bigger. This year I gave them plants. Um, that we always do that at my candlelight time. I need to be better at that. Jan, who was before me, she used to, and I'm going to steal her idea for you. She used to
Okay.
send everybody, and it's probably a little bit outdated, but she used to send everybody a Bible study CD that she would get
Mm.
from the Christian bookstore.
Uh-huh.
So anybody who taught Bible studies, she would send a Bible study CD. One year she gave us Starbucks gift cards. But she did that at Christmas time too. So that was, or the end of the year sometimes. And I'm so bad at that with my Bible study leaders. I definitely need to be better at that. So yeah, but Jan did those really cool things. So I'll give you her plans, her ideas. I aspire to do that. But and she was always something, and it was, honestly, I don't know that she spent a lot of money on it. It was just little something saying, thanks for your year, thanks for helping, thanks for this. Yeah, so.
Yeah, well, I think that truly it is the thought that counts. And just about everybody drinks either coffee or tea, so
Yeah,
those gift certificates work.
yeah.
Um,
And
well, I'm sorry.
the little Bible study, I wish they'd still did that, because I had one that I listened to on repeat all the time, but it's not we don't do that anymore. No CDs.
Well, we are just about at our time. So I don't want to, I mean, I want to honor the commitment that you made to us and just thank you sincerely for just the generosity of your time and your ideas. I know that I learned some really great tips. I'm sure that everybody in our audience has as well. So a sincere thank you for being willing to spend an hour with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.